All right, so you had that private breakfast there. What's the biggest thing that came out of it from your talk with everybody there, do you think?
Well, again, I think people are just looking for government to work for the people in Nebraska. And we're putting a lot of things in place to be able to do that, to help us make sure we're doing a great job of serving people and controlling our costs at the same time. So I'm excited about our opportunities.
I know they talk taxes in there, so what are we going to do for tax relief?
Well,
more money maybe to community colleges, K through 12?
Well, right now, I would say we did a great job in the last session. We cut the growth of government nearly in half, and that was key because that allowed us to put the additional money into the Property Tax Credit Relief Fund. We took that program up over 45%, and we'll see $408 million of direct tax relief coming back to the citizens of Nebraska over the course of this next biennium. That's a huge win for taxpayers. But we're not done. So right now my team and I are working with some other senators, talking to other groups about what are ideas that we can do on property tax relief, and absolutely school funding plays into that. So I don't have anything right now I can talk to you about. We're still really developing those ideas, but the plan will be to come up with some thoughts, start building a consensus, and have something ready for the next legislative session.
Governor, I got a question. We meet with employers constantly at the newspaper. All of them, or a lot of them, desperate for employees, and so I was very interested in this resume match that employers could tap into. Is that up and running yet?
Actually, right now, if the program we have that is going to help, where you sit down with a job coach to create that resume, is being used for people who are close to having their benefits run out, we're going to be expanding that to everybody in October. But if you do create a resume in our system, yes, employers can search that right now to find those resumes. And it's one of the ways that we're doing a better job to help connect people who are looking for the jobs to the employers who have the jobs. And there's another feature of that too that people who put their resume on that system can use, which allows them to actually set up an alert. So if a new job comes into the system that meets their skills, their search criteria, it'll give them an alert. So we're really working on leveraging the technology to do a better job of connecting people with jobs.
And that's up and running right now?
That's up and running right now.
And where would we find that?
If you talk to the Department of Labor.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Nebraska Works. Any works.
Okay, I have a question about the new educational program. And I know that's put into place to create more skilled workers and have them stay in Nebraska. But do you also think that, people out of state who see this program in high schools will bring people from out of state into Nebraska as well?
Well, I think that it's going to be focused mostly on the folks here in Nebraska. And again, this is just a pilot program to get this started, to really help bring back that career vocational, that skilled labor force training into our schools, and to really help foster that. So it's really going to be focused on Nebraska school kids. Now, does that mean that we don't want people moving here? Absolutely. We want to try and get as many people to move here as possible. And again, by having the manufacturers have the availability of that skilled labor force coming from Nebraska, I think that will help us draw other people to come to our state as well by having those jobs.
I have one question on, you kind of avoided the death penalty.
Avoided the death penalty?
And you talked a little bit. You didn't bring it up. Can you talk, do you think it's going to be on the ballot where you've been really putting your money behind it? Can you talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, we all wish we lived in a world where we didn't have dangerous criminals. I mean, nobody in Nebraska, certainly not myself, wants to put somebody to death. But the fact of the matter is, we actually do have dangerous criminals. And for instance, in our correction system, we ask our corrections officers to go into our prisons where we put dangerous people there. And so to help protect our corrections officers by having these additional sanctions like the death penalty, it's important that we have this for public safety. And as I've traveled the state, the vast majority of Nebraskans agree with me. I think the legislature was out of touch. And that's where the referendum has come from. I'm confident that it'll be on the ballot, and I think Nebraskans deserve the chance to be able to vote on it.
Do you think it's fair that you put money toward this effort? I mean, got some criticism for it. How do you?
I don't think there's anything inappropriate about helping people in Nebraska vote on this issue.
What about, if you can touch on Scott Frakes and putting him in charge of the Nebraska Department of Corrections, and do you see any end in sight maybe to the prison overcrowding issue?
Sure. So one of the things, again, we did with the help of communities, we did a national job search to find Director Frakes. He's got 32 years experience in the Washington state system, again, a system that's recognized for doing a pretty good job. And he's assigned for really changing the culture in corrections again to one of accountability and excellence. And we're already seeing some of the things he's doing, like automating the prison sentence calculation to take some of the manual error out of that process so that we don't have some of the problems we've had in the past. And actually through that process we've discovered some of the errors that were going on. So again, this is part of what you want to do. You want to find the problems. And the fact that people are bringing those problems forward shows that we're starting to change that culture, that people are coming forward with problems. Now, we all know we got a lot of work to do in corrections. And right now we're in the middle of starting a survey to be able to really assess the culture in corrections. We're going to go out to 300 people to be able to get their feedback in this survey about what we need to do to improve upon the culture in corrections. And that will in part help formulate Director Frigg's plan for this fall when he comes back with his overall plan for how do we address the issues we have in corrections. So we've got a lot of more work to do. It's not going to be easy, but I'm very excited to have Director Friggs on board. I think he's doing a fantastic job, and I think the people of Nebraska will be very comfortable that we've got the right person in charge to help address these issues.
Another quick question, kind of two questions in one. Can you talk about the President's Clean Power Act that he had its impact on Nebraska? And you also talked about an ethanol labeling initiative that you're pushing right now along with the Iowa government. Can you talk about those?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll take the last one first.
Okay.
So the labeling is about saying American ethanol on our pumps. It's something none of the gas stations has to pay for. We're providing that for free. And again, it's part of just trying to brand what we're doing here in Nebraska. Obviously, it's important to us. We're the #2 ethanol producing state. Iowa's the #1. That's why we're working together. But just really to help educate consumers about the value and importance of American ethanol. It's a great way to help protect the environment. Again, it's something that helps make sure that the gasoline we're burning is cleaner than some of the other additives that are in there to be able to boost the octane. And it helps create jobs here in Nebraska. We've got thousands of jobs that are dependent upon the ethanol industry. And frankly, we're also trying to highlight the fact that the EPA is changing the rules of the game on this RFS, but it really is in effect pulling the rug out from underneath our producers, our farmers, our ethanol companies, by changing the rules midstream. So it is a great way to help promote and make sure that people understand the benefits of using ethanol. When it comes to the Clean Power Plan, and actually, so I would also say this ethanol also shows that we do a good job of thinking about the environment. When it comes to the Clean Power Plan, this is a bad deal for Nebraska. The original plan called for us to cut our carbon emissions by 26%, and now the EPA has upped that to 40%. And they know that that's impossible for us to comply with. And it really is what it is. It's a backdoor cap and trade. Now, when the President had control of both houses, of both the House and Senate in Washington, he couldn't get this passed because the American people didn't want it. And now he's trying to bring it in through the back door through regulation. So we're joining together, and not only that, but the way he's doing it is illegal. And so we're joining together with other states to go to court to sue the EPA to say, hey, you got to follow the law just like everybody else. The way you're trying to do this isn't legal, and we're going to get a judge to say that it's not legal. Now, we actually do a great job here in Nebraska. We're in a attainment area, we've got clean air. Our power companies, remember, we're a public power state, so we're talking about protecting ratepayers. Our power companies plan ahead, right? And we have Nuclear Cooper Station open because it doesn't have that carbon footprint. So we are planning to keep the environment clean. We just think what the EPA is doing here is out of bounds.
One other quick question before you go.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing on that, Kevin.
Okay.
Also, if this plan would go forward, it's going to have a huge impact on our ratepayers here in Nebraska. It's going to take everybody's utility rates up. It's going to hurt the middle class, and we already have a lot of people who struggle to pay their utility bills, and this will make it worse.
It's also the announcement yesterday with UP about reducing management. That's probably part of it too, right?
Well, certainly what the President's policies are reducing coal, and that is directly impacting companies like Union Pacific who ship a lot of coal.
Your trade missions, can you kind of explain real quick what substantial results or things you appear you want to get out of that European trade mission and what you want to get out of the one later on? Right.
So in Europe, in June we went to Europe to be able to talk to folks who are already doing business with us. So for instance, we met with the company that's the largest importer of Nebraska beef, say thank you for your business and we want to do more with you. and what are some of those non-tariff trade barriers that get in the way. So for instance, there's a quota in Europe that limits how much beef can go in, so we were talking to them about that. So trying to knock some of those things down and have that dialogue and open up some of those markets. So we met with the European Union commissioners on that. We also met with people who are interested in investing in Nebraska. We met with a dairy, for instance, that wants to find a partner to invest here in Nebraska. So we're looking to make those connections that end up either in more of our products being sold to a particular company or to have a company come and invest here in Nebraska. And Japan will be very similar. We're going to be going over there to be able to make those connections to either folks who are buying our products like Nebraska beef or to find people who want to invest. For instance, Aflac is a great company that's domiciled here in Nebraska. They do a lot of business in Japan. We want to help them expand their Japanese business so they can create more jobs here in Nebraska. So again, part of it is you got to go knock on doors, and that's what we're going to go do. We're going to be at the U.S. Midwest Japan Association meeting where we can get in front of 300 Japanese companies and tell them the great story we have here in Nebraska and really make some of those connections.
Governor, we have time for about one more question.
Oh, can I throw one?
Sure.
Thank you personally anyway for your position and on Waters of the United States ruling for the EPA. There's a provision in there on, in fact, page 22,215 that would allow them to actually take jurisdictional.
Did you say on what page?
Page of the Federal Registry, page 22,215. Here, I'll give it to you, by the way. There's the page.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Anyway, in there they have a provision which they could create ecoregions, and they mentioned the Nebraska Sandhills is one of those, which would give them jurisdictional control over all the waters in the sandhills, which explains that in there. That's right out of the Federal Registry. But speaking of Nebraska water, and I can't let you by without a Keystone question. You know what's coming. You wrote a letter to the President on July 22nd, and in your opening sentence it said that the new Trans-Canada route bypassed the sandhills and the aquifer. Was it a slip of the pen to mention aquifer because it still crosses about 250 miles of aquifer?
You know, I read your article on that.
That's a little tough.
You know what? Actually, it's a fair criticism. We probably could have chosen our words better on that. But the fact of the matter is we did have a political process I think worked, where we moved the route of the pipeline and substantially addressed a lot of the concerns. And that did get signed off by both the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality and you know, we're obviously waiting to see what the State Department does on it.
Sure.
So I think we had a political process that worked, and you know, again, I'm in favor of building that pipeline because it'll help create jobs, it'll help the property tax base, and again, it'll help us reduce our reliance on foreign oil.
Okay. But you are aware that those crosses 250 miles an hour.
As I said, you know, it's a fair criticism. We probably could have chosen our words better.
Okay, thanks, Governor.
Fast forwards question. This fall, you're invited to a Nebraska football game and the Cubs are in the playoffs.
Well, I am duty bound to host the tailgate before all Nebraska home games. So that will always be the top priority, regardless of whether the Cubs are in the playoffs or not.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
All right.